What's up, everybody? Welcome back into Lettermen Row. It is a big show because it is Saturday morning of conference championship weekend. And with the alarm that went off on Saturday morning, there is renewed hope in the college football playoff for the folks in Columbus, Ohio. Utah takes down USC, really dominates USC 47-24 in the Pac-12 championship game. Number 4 USC is in all likelihood with their second loss out, and number 5 Ohio State sitting idly by, waiting for its opportunity, just hoping for a chance. Tim now just might get that chance to be the number 4 seed in the college football playoff, maybe even the number 3 seed if things go a little haywire on Saturday afternoon in conference championship weekend. Just first thoughts, Tim, after watching Utah dominate USC and then seeing the reaction from the folks inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center get pretty excited on social media to see that result.
I think they ought to be excited because I think Ohio State's in. I don't know how Ohio State could not. I don't know how Ohio State could not be in at this point. That's a double negative, but you know where I'm going there. Bottom line is they were the 5th team looking in. USC made this great run with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams gets a hitch in his get along, as Hayden, the late great Hayden Fry, used to say. And their offense fell off a cliff. Their defense was never on the cliff. Their defense was always clinging to these roots sticking out of the cliff, and it finally fell off because we saw what this was almost like the first time these two teams played, Utah and USC. Utah took some punches early and then came back and beat USC. Well, this time they beat them down, knocked them out, and Ohio State was sitting idly by. Sometimes it's a good thing to sit idly by, like in 2007 when all chaos broke out the last 2 weeks of the regular season, and Ohio State ended up in the BCS title game. So the interesting thing here, I don't know how there could be an argument made for any other team to be at least that number 4 team in the rankings when the final ones come out at noon on Sunday.
Andy?
Yeah, I mean, when Alabama came in at number 6 and you have Ohio State at number 5, I don't see how you can justify putting Alabama above Ohio State in the next set of rankings, given that both of them aren't playing today. So, I mean, when you look at it, you have to look at the best wins for the teams. You have Ohio State's best wins are against number 8, Penn State, and that was on the road. And then you have another win against number 21, Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And then for Alabama's best wins, you've got, a number 24, Mississippi State, and a number 20 Texas, and both of those just have 8 wins. So when you compare the best wins, clearly Ohio State is above Alabama. Also, there's never been a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. I don't know if they want to break that streak now for an Alabama. I know Alabama's always in the conversation because it's the SEC, and I know Greg Sankey's going to want to, promote his teams in a way, but sure. I just don't see how you can justify it. I think it would just cause way more chaos at this point than it would do any good. And given what the rankings are supposed to be for, it would make absolutely no sense on the behalf of Boo Corrigan or anyone on that committee if they were to slot in Alabama above Ohio State this week.
Andy, I might hit the exact same note there for USC. I know that they risked it on Championship Sunday or Championship Saturday, I guess Friday night, but they validated what we thought about. Everything that we thought about USC was validated on Friday night. It lost a second game to Utah. It can't beat Utah. And Utah is not a championship contender in any sense. But USC could not beat Utah for the second straight time. If you can't beat a team, in either chance, you don't deserve to be there. USC has 2 losses now. They've never put a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. I don't care if one of those losses came, in the Pac-12 championship game. 2 losses is 2 losses, and you can't justify that, especially, again, to the same team. And so you cannot put Alabama in this tournament. They've looked awful this year, not just in their 2 losses, but they nearly lost to Ole Miss, except Lane Kiffin forgot to run the ball. They nearly lost to Texas A&M, except Jimbo Fisher forgot to call any sort of decent play on the final play of the game. They nearly lost to Texas, except Texas's defense might be worse than USC's. So, we've got 5 games there that Alabama could have lost. Like, this team does not deserve to be in. And then USC, I mean, good Lord, tackle somebody. I know that that's coming 7 days after watching what Ohio State did, but, have some respect for yourself on defense, USC. Geesh. And so, It's weird though, because 10 minutes into that game, and maybe even 15 minutes into that game, maybe 25, Tim.
Yep.
I was about to turn it off because USC was calling its shots, getting its number, doing whatever it needed to, and really wanted to. And I thought it was curtains, and I was ready to make my flight to Fort Lauderdale and go cover an Orange Bowl, Tim.
I wasn't, because I kept remembering how that game went the first time. Number one, I'm not being, a smart aleck here. Yeah, I guess I am a little bit. I always am. But I keep reminding people, man, football games are 60 minutes. And a team like Utah, if it ever gets a foothold, is going to wear on you. They finally got a foothold. Caleb Williamson gets banged up. He's half the quarterback he used to be, but he still summoned it in the fourth quarter to get their last touchdown, which I thought was remarkable. But they were half the offense they had been, and then number two, defensively, they were exactly the defense they'd always been. And finally, Utah and Cam Bad Moon Rising, as far as USC fans are concerned, they got their toehold and just went after it, and it was remarkable. So people are so impatient anymore to want to know the outcome of something 10 minutes into something. And I had all these people bailing on Twitter because I told, anyway, it is what it is. We know how college football fans are. Let's get real quick back to the Alabama conundrum, though. The Alabama conundrum only comes into play, in my opinion, the playoff committee, and you know this, Andy, they spoke last week. We believe that Ohio State is a better team, better suited to be in the college football playoff at this moment than Alabama is. Neither one of those teams are playing this weekend. The only conundrum for the committee is going to be if, like, TCU gets upset or beat by Kansas State. Now, do you put Alabama in the Final Four along with if Georgia does, in fact, take care of business against LSU and Michigan takes care of the spoiler makers, which, by the way, is not a given. But if those two chalk, and then you've got Alabama and Ohio State sitting there, which is 3 and which is 4, it will probably be Ohio State 3 and Alabama 4 if, in fact, TCU is not in the Final Four. That's going to be the conundrum the committee faces, is if Kansas State upsets TCU, do they put Alabama in? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that is going to be the conversation. I still don't think Alabama deserves to be in, given that
I agree with that. Yeah,
TCU has already beaten Kansas State. So unless we're talking about some like 62-7 beatdown where it really raises eyebrows and question marks about, is this TCU team going to put up a fight in a 4-team field? I don't see why that should be the conversation. I agree it will be the conversation, though, because that's how this committee works and that's how this playoff works. But yeah, I mean, I think the resume itself for TCU just is better than what Alabama has, which is weird to say. At the beginning of the season, I don't think anyone would have ever thought that, but that's where we are right now. And actually, to go back to this, like, I'm kind of happy that USC lost last night, just because, for one thing, it doesn't give the immediate reward to a program that just used and maybe abused the transfer portal. I mean, the transfer portal is going crazy right now, and call me old guy,
old guy,
yelling at the cloud or something. But I think there's something to be said about a team maybe needing more time to gel together, because that's free agency, and that's what it is. And they applied so many guys together from the portal, and a good team offensively, but 24 missed tackles. I mean, 24 missed tackles on defense is insane. And they had a chance, to go up in that game 24-3. It was 4th and 8.
Yep.
On Utah 37. They didn't get it there. If they get that, you have to imagine they go up 24-3. And even with a Caleb Williams injury maybe happening, I just don't know if Utah comes back from that. But I don't know. I think it's good for the sport that didn't work out for USC, because I think we're already seeing more and more teams follow that blueprint.
Yeah, it's funny how they got all those really good offensive guys, but Bryson Shaw might have been the gem of the guys they picked up defensively. And we remember him playing for Ohio State. The last time we saw him play for Ohio State was against Utah in the Rose Bowl. But excuse me, it's interesting how offense. You got to play a little bit of defense, ladies and gentlemen, to win a championship. I don't believe defenses win championships. I believe they put you in position to win a championship. And clearly, the transfer portal could use a little greasing on the defensive side for USC going into this coming year, right? Isn't that right, Spencer?
Yeah, I agree.
Who cares about USC though, right?
But enough about USC, enough about Alabama. Ohio State is likely going to the college football playoff. We're going to have full coverage of that at lettermenrow.com. I'm not ending the show right now, I promise. It's going to be Ohio State, Georgia, barring some cataclysmic upset. Georgia plays an LSU team that got hot at the right time, beat Alabama at home by 1. Probably isn't even the best team in the SEC West, although that division is kind of a train wreck right now. Not sure who really deserves to be there. I don't see LSU beating Georgia. I don't see Purdue beating Michigan. I understand that they're 3-0 against top 3 teams in the last few years. I don't think that matters. I don't think TCU is getting left out. So, all of that is to say, I believe Ohio State will be in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta against Georgia. You have to, if you want.
Wait a minute. Where do you think Ohio State's going to end up?
Well, Tim, they're going to have to play Georgia there as the number 4 seed, and
what was the name of this? What was the name of the game again?
The Peach Bowl, but it's not their choice. You can't take credit for this, Tim. Their choice.
Yeah, I can. I said they were going to end up in the Peach Bowl like 9-10 weeks ago.
Their choice was the Fiesta Bowl, though, clearly. And so
I'm taking credit for it, but go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure you said that clearly. Go ahead now.
They're going to the Peach Bowl by force to play against Georgia. When they would much rather be playing as in the 2-3 game against TCU. Now they have to go, instead of seeing Georgia potentially in a national championship game, the Buckeyes are going to have to beat Georgia immediately, right off the bat on New Year's Eve in the Benz. So
big whoopee.
If that matchup holds, early, just very early thoughts, because I don't want to get too much into that, because Sunday we're going to have full coverage in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. But as you see it right now, early thoughts on Ohio State in the college football playoff.
Just when I go to speak, I have to cough. It's one of those kind of things. God is afflicting me. People who watch my Urban's Take with Tim May, I like to say it like that. Notice, Urban, as Urban pointed out this week, Ohio State was already breaking down video on Georgia. They were doing their due diligence. If they got in, good chance that's who they play, barring any more upsets this weekend. So I think that's a good matchup for Ohio State. We've talked about this before. I think that is an offense that Ohio State can get after with its defense. I think this defense is much better built to go after an offense like that than it is Michigan's. We'll get into that some other time. But the bottom line is, and then it will be a safe cracker kind of deal for Ohio State offensively going against that defense, which reloaded, and you have to be impressed with the way this team reloaded and got after people, despite all this, 7 guys that got drafted from that defense. Bottom line is, I'm not sure Georgia is as good as it was last year, but it's pretty damn close.
Andy?
I'm really curious to see what happens to the legacy of some of these guys that we're probably going to opt out and go to the NFL. I mean, CJ Stroud's at the top of that list. After the Michigan game, this is a guy that put up the numbers, yeah, and he won all the awards, yeah, but he didn't beat Michigan. He didn't, go to the college football playoff and win a national championship for this program. Now you're talking about a chance to play Georgia, the defending national champion, in a semifinal game, for a potential chance to play Michigan in the national championship. I mean, talk about a legacy turnaround. You can go from a guy that couldn't do it and get over that hill to a guy that can do it all. And I think that's a really cool opportunity for a player like that has otherwise done all you could ask for at a school like this. So now the question is, will he rise to the occasion? Does he get that exact opportunity? Things have to line up a little bit, but it's looking a lot more realistic than it did a week ago. And he's not the only one. I mean, other guys on the offensive line, Paris Johnson, Dwan Jones, guys that, maybe would have opted out had they played in a bowl game that wasn't the college football playoff. Now people are going to be practicing. They aren't going to get the opt-outs you would have otherwise. I think you're going to get to see a team that it's coming off a loss. I think losses at the right time can be a really good thing for football teams. The loss to Michigan was at the worst time possible, and they needed help to get in. But now that it looks like they'll be in, how do they respond to that loss? How much better are they at correcting certain things? I'm really interested to see this defense. How are they going to respond? Is it going to be like the first 11 games, a much improved unit, or are we going to see some of the same errors? I mean, this is honestly would be the best situation to play Georgia in the first round, because you're going to get an answer to a lot of the questions that you have about Ryan Day, about Jim Knowles, DJ Stroud. And that's a privilege that, a week ago we didn't think we would have.
Amen. And
Absolutely.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, I'm not sure whether he's totally out of the picture or not. That'll be an interesting, once again, an interesting storyline to follow. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Spence.
No problem at all, Tim. I've just got one early thought, and I'm already thinking about it. Christopher Smith, Malachi Starks, that Georgia secondary against these wide receivers is going to be must-watch television. It's going to be so fun. Georgia secondary is the strong point of this defense. A lot of people talk about in the trenches, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and those guys up front. The defense, their defense is a secondary-driven defense this year. It starts actually in the back with them. Usually it starts up front, but they're young. They're a little inexperienced this year compared to last year up front. That secondary is the strength. And for Ohio State to be able to go against this Georgia secondary and really find out, okay, you think you're the best secondary. We think we're the best receiving core. Let's go at it for 60 minutes. That is going to be absolutely fascinating. And I can't wait. It's going to be so fun if that does happen. If not, maybe see Michigan in that number one spot. Maybe even see TCU in that number one spot if we truly do get chaos. I think Ohio State's locked in on the 4 spot no matter what. The reshuffling of the order, just maybe if TCU loses, they move Ohio State up ahead of TCU, and you get the game round 2, which I don't think we've ever seen, Tim. I think I can speak.
I don't think the committee will figure out some way to keep that from happening. Don't you agree? Of having 2 conference teams play each other in the semifinals.
I completely agree. I think that if Michigan wins and TCU loses, I think that Ohio State, Georgia will be 2 versus 3, and they'll move Michigan up to number 1 and make it Michigan TCU just for the matchups. So I think you're getting Georgia regardless, Tim. Georgia and Ohio State in the college football playoff. Potentially, we can't speak on absolutes right now because it is a 12-person committee who has done really stupid things in the past. So we'll see. But right now, it appears Ohio State and Georgia are on a collision course in the college football playoff, and Ohio State didn't even have to make the collision to get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to dive into all of that on Sunday. We'll find out Ohio State's bowl fate on Sunday, early afternoon, maybe even at noon when the college football playoff Final Four comes out. Tim May will be in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center with me. So will Andy Backstrom. We'll be there for full coverage for LettermenRow.com. This has been the latest video. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review down below. We would love to have the support of you guys on the Lettermen Row YouTube channel. And come check us out on the Lettermen Lounge, the message board. You can get all the premium content from Andy, from Tim, from myself, from Matt Parker as recruiting signing day comes around the corner. $10 until August 31st of 2023. Give the gift of Lettermen Row this holiday season. That's a great stocking stuffer deal. That is a really cheap deal, guys. So again, for Tim, for Andy, I'm Spencer. Thanks for watching this playoff update, I guess we'll call it. We'll see you guys in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Sunday.